Alright, welcome to the 15th video in the PHP e-commerce series. My name is Curtis. This is Free Skills. What we're going to do right in this video is we're going to build out our form for adding a new product. And this form is going to be a little more complex than the previous forms with brands and categories, but it's not too terrible. So the first thing that we need to do is just go ahead and open up our products.php page here. And what I want to do is up here at the top, underneath this if statement feature. That's fine. What we're going to do is, actually we don't want to do it underneath that. We want select all from products. Right underneath this include, we're going to add an else statement. So if, and we're going to say if is set $_get if is set. Let me just turn off my touchpad because it's messing me up here a little bit. Sorry about that. Alright. So if is set add, okay. Then what are we going to do? Well, we're going to put all that code right here, but what I want to do is do an else, and we do everything else. And so I want to have all of this happen else, but not if that's clicked. So now, if I refresh the page, unexpected in line 7, yeah, I don't have the opening bracket there. Must have deleted it with the thing. So if I hit this, you can see that it deletes the whole table and the add button, and even where it says products. That's okay. That's what I want. But if I take that away, it's all back. Okay, so that's what I want to do. So we got that if and else. So all of this is going to display if this add isn't present. Alright, so what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to skip down a few lines and I'm going to close PHP tags, and then I will open PHP tags right here. Okay, that way I can do some HTML in here and I can do some logic in here. So what I want to do is start to build out our form. And so the first thing on the page is going to be our H2. And we'll give that a class of text-center. That's a bootstrap deal. And we'll do our closing H2 tag, and we'll do an HR tag, be consistent. And let's just put add a new product. Okay. So underneath the HR tag, we want to start out our form. So we're going to do form, and on the form what we're going to do is we're going to do action equals, and this is going to be products.php, but we also want to pass it a get variable of add equals 1. That way it's this part of the page still, it doesn't change since we had add set. And then for a method we're going to do post. Okay, and then for ink type, we're going to be uploading a photo, so what we need to do is multi-part form data. So ink type equals multi-part form data. We only have to do that because we're having uploads with this. We have files and not just form data, so that's the reason we do that. And we'll close that form. Okay. So inside of our form now, we're going to have basically 4 columns, and we'll use Bootstrap grid system to do that. So let's go ahead and create a div, and we're going to give it a class, and this is going to actually be form. This is going to be form group. Yep, form group. And we will close that div. The other class that we're going to give this is the grid system, so we'll say call dash medium dash 3. That way we can get 4 of these across there. Okay, and inside of there we're going to have label. We're going to make this first one. First one's going to be title. Okay, and we're going to do title, and we're going to do an asterisk on this because this is going to be required. Okay, and then we just have to do our input. For input, we're going to do a type of text. We're going to give it a name of title. We're going to give it an ID also of title. We have to do that because of this 4 right here in the label. We're going to set value. We're going to leave it blank for the moment. Actually, what we can do is just go ahead and build out our ternary operators, and then we'll copy all this. So we're going to do PHP shorthand for echo and close all this down, and value is going to be equal to nothing, so just a blank string, unless if is set $, $_post, which is how we access post data of title. If that's set, then see, I need one more. Yep. And if that's set, then value is going to be $_post title. And what would be a good idea is to go ahead and sanitize that as well. So let's go ahead and pop that inside of this sanitize function here. Okay. Alright. Let's see what that looks like. So go ahead and hit add. Okay, and there we have title. One thing I do want to do is give this a class as well. So we'll go right here and we'll say class equals, and we'll give this a class of form control. Okay, and that gives it the bootstrap styling here. So we got title here, and then we have, there we go. So we're just going to keep moving on. Let's take a look at our database real quick. That'll help us build this form out. So we're going to need, the next thing I want to do is brand, and then we'll do the parent and child categories. So let's go ahead and look here, and we can copy this. Better not, because there's not going to be much text. The next ones are going to be selects. So let's go ahead and do div, and we'll give it a class equal form control, and another class of call medium 3. Close that div. Alright, and we will give this a label for, this is going to be brand. Okay, this one will also be required, so put brand asterisk. Okay, and then we are going to do a select. Okay, the select will be, we'll give this a class of form control. This should have been up here, actually. This should have been form group, not form control. Sorry about that. This one's form control though. And we're going to give it an ID equal to brand. We also, since this name right here will be brand. And by the way, the name is what gets put into the post array, this $_post right here. The name is what becomes the associative part of that array, or the key of that array, and then what you enter is the value of that array. The ID is the ID of this, and that is, we have to have an ID because we're using this for right here to reference that. Okay, so we're not going to put a value on here. What we're going to do is we are going to give it a blank option. So we can say option. Okay, and here what we're going to do is we're going to give it a value equals to nothing. And then what I want to do is outside of those double quotes, well, let's not do anything there yet. Let's go up here now inside of our PHP, and we're going to go ahead and grab our brands. Okay, so I'm just going to say brand SQL. You know what we can do is say brand query, and we could do all this in one go here. So we can say access our database reference, give it a query, and then inside of here, just save us a few lines of code here. We can say select all from brand. Is it brands or brand singular? Look in our database here, and it's brand singular. So get rid of that, and that's all we need. We're selecting everything from there. So what we can do then is this is going to be the result of that. And so right here underneath this option, we're going to go ahead and open up PHP, and we're going to do a while loop here, and we'll use this syntax. Skip down a few lines, end while, and that's a semicolon. Okay, and then in here what we're going to do is option, and then this will have a value equal to, and then we'll close that option. Alright, so what we can do here now is say brand is equal to MySQLi fetch assoc, and we can pass it in that brand query, right, that we access right here. And that for each thing in our brand, we will have that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to say brand ID, and then here inside of the option, we're going to pass that. And by the way, these need to be echoed out in PHP. So we'll say brand, and that's because that's the name of that field in our database. If we look in our database, we have ID and brand. Okay, so let's go back here. And this right here actually needs to be echoed out in PHP as well. And then after this, right here, we want this to be selected. So what we're going to do is we're going to do another PHP Ternary operator here, and we're going to say nothing if this isn't true, and then we're going to say space selected if this does equal true. So what we want to know is if is set $_post brand, okay, and so outside of here we're going to say and, so if it's set and $_post of brand is equal to brand ID. So I know that looks kind of crazy, but if post is set and post brand is equal to brand ID, we're going to echo selected. If not, we're going to echo nothing there. Okay, and here's our brand ID with a value. We're going to do the same thing here, but right here we're going to go ahead and echo out PHP here, and we're going to say do a ternary operator. We'll do the same thing. Okay, so do space selected, And what we're going to say is same thing. If $_post, sorry about that. If is set $_post brand, okay, and which is double ampersand, if $_post of brand, okay, is equal to, you have to use a double equal. So if it's equal to, well, in this case, nothing, then that one will be selected. If not, nothing. Okay. So let's see if that worked. Okay, so we have brand here, and if we look inside of here, we have each one of our deals, but I want to have this in alphabetical order. So what we need to do is we need to actually, inside of our query right here, we want to say order by brand. Okay, and what that's going to do is it puts it in alphabetical order, so it's just a little easier to find. So now if I select this and let's see, well, I can't submit the form yet. We don't have a submit button just yet, so we'll just keep going. The next two are going to be, well, the next one's going to be a lot like this one for parent. The child category is going to be a little more complex. We're going to have to write a little bit of JavaScript to get that to work. So let's go ahead here and inside of our PHP tags, let's go ahead and pretty much do the same thing we did with the brand, but now what we're going to do is select all from categories where okay, we only want our parents here, so what we're going to do is select all from categories where parent is equal to 0, because remember in our database parent is going to be 0 if it's a parent category, and we're also going to order by category. Let's take a look at the database, make sure we're right on that. It's been a while since I looked at this. So here's our categories. Yeah, well, order by categories. We select, and you see our right here 0. That means that these are going to be parents, and the rest of these are child because they're referencing a parent. Okay. So down here now, what we're going to do is outside of this div. This is our last div group that we did. We're going to do the exact same thing again. We're going to give it a class equal to form group, and give it a call medium 3 bootstrap for the grid system, and close our div tag. I know this is a little bit tedious. If you don't need to learn this stuff, feel free to just skip to the end of the video or whatever you want to do and pause it, and then you can just copy the text or whatever, copy the code. But if you're new, maybe you can benefit from watching it, I don't know. But what we need to do here is say for, next one is going to be parent, okay? So our label here is going to be parent category, and this is also going to be required. Alright, and we're going to go ahead and set up another select again for this. Okay, select. Okay, we're going to give this a class form control. We're going to give it an ID equal to parent. We're going to give it name equal to parent. That's it. And then we're going to give this a blank option to start with a blank value as well, so that it just has a blank one to start with there. Okay. And then what we're going to do is for the rest of them, we're going to do our PHP while loop. We'll use this syntax. End while. Okay. So while parent is equal to MySQLi fetch assoc, and then we're going to pass it in our let's scroll up, it was parent query. Okay, so for each of those, each one of these rows in our database, we're going to loop through and we're going to add a new option. That's what we're doing here. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Alright, so here what we want to do is we want to print out PHP echo parent, and the associative array there is category. And of course, for value here inside of the option tag, this is an attribute we're adding. And this value is also going to echo out parent. This time though, this is going to be ID. Okay? And what we can do is do the same thing with a ternary operator here. So I want to say nothing if this doesn't pass. If it does, I want to say selected. Okay, so if is set, this is very familiar now, post. Okay, if is set post parent. Okay, okay, and then and $_post parent is equal to parent ID, then we're going to echo a space and selected there inside of that attribute. There's our ending greater than sign for our option tag. So it's going to print this space selected if both of these equate to true. If post parent, if it is set, so meaning they submitted something, and that's equal to the ID, then it's going to hit selected there. Otherwise, it's not going to say anything. We can do the same thing here in this value. We can actually say if we can do PHP echo, and we could do a ternary operator. Okay, and we could say nothing, or we can say selected. And this one, if is set $_post parent, okay, and $_post of parent is equal to nothing, then we want that blank option selected. So let's see now. Okay, so we have this here, and you can see that it's generated, and these are just our parent categories. We have boys, gifts, girls, men, and women. And then what we're going to do is add one more drop down for child category, but it's going to have to be dynamically generated based upon what parent is chosen here. So we have to do a little bit of JavaScript. It won't be bad, but okay. So what we're going to do is inside, let's go ahead and close our helpers. We don't need that. We don't need brands. We don't need main.css. But what we're going to do is inside of our admin here, I'm going to go ahead and add a new folder, and I'm going to call it parsers. Okay, and inside of here I'm going to add a new file, and I'm going to call this child, that's not what I wanted to do, so I rename that. This is going to be child underscore categories .php. Okay, so child underscore categories. And what this file is going to do is we're going to use an Ajax request. We're going to make a listener in the footer that says, hey, when someone selects something on this parent category, we're going to fire off an Ajax request to this file and return the options for the child category. Okay, so the other thing we're going to need to open is in our admin includes footer. Make sure it's your includes footer and not your admin footer and not your footer in the front end of your page. What we're going to do is we're going to skip down a little bit. We're going to add some script tags here. Okay, and we are going to listen for we're going to do Jquery here, and we are listening for our select, and then we're going to do a name equals, and then in double quotes, parent. That's our selector. So dot change, which is a Jquery function. So Jquery, this is our selector. I mean, we could do this with straight JavaScript. It'd be like get a document get element by ID, but we're going to do select here, and we're listening for a change. Okay, so when the change happens, we're going to fire off a function that we're going to create, and we're going to call it get child options. Okay, so we give it a semicolon here, and above there we've got to define this function. So we're going to call it get child options. Okay, so get child options. What we need to do is we need to know what the value is of this select here. So what we can do is we can say parent, well, we're in JavaScript here, so we got to do var parent ID equals, and then what we're going to do is do Jquery. We're going to select it by doing Jquery, and this time we're just going to do an ID. We're just going to say parent. That's totally fine. And then to get that value, we're going to do dot val. Okay, that'll set that up, and then what we're going to do now is do Jquery Ajax. Okay, inside of there, we're going to create an object here, and we're going to need to tell it a couple things. One is going to be the URL, and that URL is going to be / the name of your root folder here, /admin, /parsers, /child _categories .php. That is the URL, okay? And then what we're going to do is type, and in type we're going to say post, okay? And then what we're going to do is data. We're going to pass it some data. Let's see. We're going to pass it ID, and then what's going to be here is parent ID. And actually, we can say parent ID, and what this is going to do is create a data object here, and we're going to say parent ID. We're going to set that as the key of the object, and then this parent ID is actually from this variable here, so that will set the value of that. And then the last couple things we need here is success, and on success we're going to run a function, an anonymous function, so we're not going to give it a name. And then I'm just going to go ahead and set this up too. Error, we're going to run a function as well, an anonymous function, and that is it. So if there's an error, all we're going to do is alert something went wrong with the child options. Something we know, if there's an error that pops up, we know kind of where to look, and it'll be here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have some data come back to us from this child categories. So that data comes back inside of this function here on success. So what we're going to do now is we're going to select, okay? So what we're going to do now is we're going to select with jQuery, and we're going to select an ID of our child category. So let's look at that again. Right here in our select, here's our parent. We haven't actually set up the select for our child category. So let's go ahead and do that while we're here. So we're going to need another div, and we're going to give it a class equal to form group, and we're going to give it another class of call for a column medium 3. So now we're going to have 4 across there, and close that div. Okay, inside of here we're going to give it a label 4, and we're just going to call this child. That's fine, we don't need to call it anything else, so child. And close our label tag, and we'll say child category, and this is also going to be required, so we'll give it an asterisk. I can't say that word very well. Asterisk. Maybe I can say that later. Select. I don't remember having that hard of a time saying it. I went and moved one of my best friends is moving out of state, and this is one of the last few days I get to see him, and we went and moved all his furniture today into storage. So I'm a little out of it, and I'm tired, but anyhow. Select, we're going to give this an ID of child. We'll also give it a name of child. We're going to give it a class of form control, and we're actually not going to give it any options. We're just going to go ahead and close that select tag like that, because in the footer what we're going to do is here we selecting that by the ID of child, and we're going to say HTML, and this is going to insert the HTML, and what we're going to insert into there is this data that's returned to us here, and that's it. For as far as the jQuery, this is actually, as long as I haven't made any mistakes here, we'll find out, but this is going to do an Ajax request to this child categories page, which will also be fairly simple, and then it will, on success, it will populate that select with our options, which we're going to return here. So inside of our child categories, let's just open up some PHP tags here. And I updated my editor, and it does some funky stuff now. I'm not sure why they do that, but oh well. So what we're going to do is we're going to have an SQL. What we can do is we're just going to say option, or we'll just call this child query. Okay, we're going to make that equal to database query, and we're going to say select all from categories, and then where parent is equal to, and then in single quotes here we're going to say parent ID, and then we'll order by category. Alright, now a couple things. This isn't going to work right off the bat here. For one, we need to know what that parent ID is. So what we're going to do is we have to tell it that the parent ID. So parent ID is going to be equal to, I'm going to cast this to an integer here, but it's going to be equal to $_post of parent ID. Now where's that coming from? Well, in our Ajax request, we're actually sending this parent ID as post data to this file. So we're going to have that just like it was posted to it. So that's where this $_post ID. What this int is doing is making sure that this is returning an integer instead of a string. This still won't work yet though, because we don't have access to our database object and we don't really have access to anything. So what we want to do is we're going to want to require, if I can spell that right, require, still can't spell it right, require once, and then what we're going to do is, okay, so we're going to say $_server document root, and then we're going to concatenate onto that a string of / and then the name of your root folder. For me it's tutorial, and then it's going to be core / init.php. Now this should actually work. It'll creates this parent ID, does a little bit of sanitation by passing it to an integer, and then we got this child query here, and it brings that up. So what we need to do is out of this PHP tag, actually, we need to be inside of that. We're going to do something called ob start. Okay, and that's a pre-built. That is a pre-built PHP function that starts buffering. Okay. What we're going to do is after we ob start that, actually we're going to close down PHP. Okay, and then we're going to go down a few lines, and we are going to open PHP back up, and we're going to echo ob get clean function, which we're going to echo this. Basically what we're doing is we're starting a buffer. We're going to output some HTML. We're going to echo that buffer back, and then we're going to release that memory by doing this ob get clean here. Okay, so this, by the way, this echo, when you echo something back on this, what it's going to do is it's going to pass that information back in this Ajax request right here as this data. Okay, that's what's going to be that data here. So here now we just need to do option, and what we're going to do is do a blank option. So blank value. So we want just an empty one so they can. Okay. And then what we're going to do also now is we're going to open up PHP again, and we're going to do a while loop. Okay, this should all look really familiar by now. We've done so much of this same. Really, this project is just big. I mean, it's not difficult. We're not doing any real difficult programming. It's a lot of repetitiveness, but we're making a pretty cool project with very little. I mean, you don't have to have very much PHP knowledge to do this. You just gotta build it. I mean, it's big, and you just gotta keep going at it. So anyway, I'm just gonna say child equals, and then we're gonna do a mysqli fetch associative array, and we're gonna pass it in child query. All right. So then what we're gonna do is give it an option. The value equal to, and then we'll close that option tag, and then here we're going to say child. Actually, we have to echo that out, so we're going to say child, and then category here, and then inside the value we're going to echo out child ID. Okay, this is actually, I believe, all we're going to need in this file. And then here's our jQuery for our JavaScript. This is actually all jQuery. which is a JavaScript library. And so let's go ahead and just see what happens now. I'm sure I messed something up here, but now that you see we have title, brand, parent, and child, I'm going to go ahead and right click on here. I'm using Chrome and I'm hitting inspect element, and I'm going to go ahead and maximize that. And the reason I'm going to do that is because what should happen is when I select one of these, it should fire off that jQuery event. Okay, so let's see what happens here. If I look back here on this page and go to network, we didn't have any errors pop up, and we have this child categories. So if I click on that, you can see that post 2 was okay, so it made it there, which means our URL is correct. It's got a status of 200, which is good. And if I look down, I can see that we passed it parent ID, and the value was 3. That is because I selected boys. Now if I look in my right here, if I look in my categories, boys has an ID of 3, so that's all good. Let's look back. We can know a few more things here. We can see our preview, and you can see that it returned pants, shirts, and shoes. And what it actually returned was our options. So do you see this? Where it's populated our values, okay, and it gave us the category names for all of our children that was underneath the one that we had selected. So if I select another one now, so let's just say women, and I look in here, we have accessories, dresses, pants, shirts, and shoes. If I say men, accessories, pants, shirts, and shoes. Girls, we have gifts. And so what's happening every time we do this is it's dynamically generating these elements here. So that's actually pretty cool. I mean, they don't have to like search through a huge long thing. We're just firing off a JavaScript event and populating this selects options based upon what we selected here. So really quick, let's look at that code. So what's happening is we put a listener right here, and we're listening for the select of parent to change. When it changes, we're firing off get child options, which is this function right here. When we do that, we're going to grab the parent ID, and to grab the parent ID, we just selected it with this, and the ID was parent, and then we selected the value, and then we fired off an Ajax request to this URL, which is this file that we made. We gave it a type of post, we sent it the parent ID along with it, and if that came back correctly, what we did was, if on success, we selected the child element, the ID of the select, and we put in the HTML, this is a jQuery function HTML, and that will place HTML code inside of this ID. And when I did that, we passed it this data right here inside of that. Now that data is whatever we echo off of this parser page, which was our options right here. We did that while loop and created those options and then echoed them back. So that worked pretty well, I think. There may be some different ways to do that, but I thought that was pretty cool to dynamically generate that stuff based upon that. So now we have our title, brands, which is just a text field. We have brand, parent, and child categories done. The rest of the form shouldn't be, well, I'll take that back. There is kind of a little bit more work we're going to have to do, but a lot of the form's not as complex as this. So I'll close my developer tools here. Okay. Next, we're going to do two text fields. We're just going to do price and list price. Let's go ahead and do that. Right here under our last closing div tag here, we're going to create another div. We're going to give it a class of form group. Close the div. And actually, we also need a class of call medium 3 because we're going to put 4 of these on the next row. And we're going to give it a label. A lot of repetitiveness in this video. We're just building out our form. So we're going to do label, and this is going to be for price. Okay, so this one will also be required, and we're going to give it an input here. We're going to give it an ID of price. We're going to give it a name of price, which we need for the form submission or the post value. We're going to give it a class of form, not forma, form control, and we're going to give it a value. Okay. The other thing that I forgot to do is one of the most important things here is we need to give it a type equal to text. Okay. Now this value is just going to be a ternary operator here, and so let's go ahead and build that up real quick. It's kind of like how I like to do this. I put the whole thing in parentheses. You probably don't really have to do that. It just makes it easier to read the code for me. So I don't want to say anything. If is set $_post price. If that's set, then right here I want to echo $_post price. Okay. And let's see. That's it. So I'm going to actually, the next one is very similar. So I'm just going to copy this whole little div tag here and go down here and do one more here. And this is going to be, instead of price, this is going to be list price. And we'll do list, and then here, list. Okay, list. All right, so those next two elements are, those next two elements here are done. We can take a look at those real quick. It's not a big deal. So we have price and list price. Now they're both text fields. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a button right here that you click it and it's going to pop up a modal to enter all of our all of our sizes and quantities. And you know, basically I don't want to have all that on this page. It's just going to get kind of cluttered. And then I'm going to do another read-only text field right here that displays the string that is created from that. So let's go ahead and knock out that button really quick. So we're going to give this a div class form group, and then we'll do call medium 3 and close that div, and then put down a few lines. Here we're not going to do, we're basically just going to do button. We'll give it a class of button default, and then we're going to give it an on-click event. Okay. On click, this is going to fire off our JavaScript here. Or actually, we're going to do our modal here. So maybe we won't do an on click. We'll see. I'm going to go ahead and close this button. And I'm going to call this quantity and sizes. Let's take a look at that real quick and make sure I have that. Dang it. So let's go back and see what happened here. Right, because I have a little / in that div. Okay, so we gotta do a little work to make this look right. To make it line up, we're just gonna go ahead and add a label here. This label is just going to be quantity and sizes. Okay, that's going to be required. Now we need to give this another class of form control to make that line up correctly. In this onClick event, we're going to create another. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to do Jquery select, and we're going to select an ID which we haven't created yet, but we're going to call this sizes modal, and we're going to do a dot modal, and then toggle, and then semicolon, and we're going to return false. Okay. So we haven't actually created the modal yet to make that pop up, but let's just really quickly add another div here. We're going to say a class equals form group, call medium 3. Okay, and then skip down a few lines, and we're going to give it a label. Okay, and we're going to say for. We're going to call this just sizes. That's fine. For sizes, and sizes, and quantity preview. Okay, and then we're going to give it an input, and this is going to be a type of text. Give it a name of sizes. We're going to give it an ID of sizes. We're going to give it a value equal to. Now this is going to be another PHP Ternary operator here. Okay, and that's going to be, we're checking if it is set of $_post sizes. I just noticed these didn't have an S on them. If it is set, we're going to do $_post sizes. The last thing I want to add here is an attribute called read only, so that they can't edit this. We're going to populate this unexpected on line 52. Let's take a look at that line. Blah blah blah. If it's, well, we don't have the alternative there, so that should fix that problem. Okay. The one thing I didn't do is give that a class. So right here, let's just give this a class equal, and this is going to be form control. Refresh, and boom. And because it's read only, it's kind of grayed out, but you'll be able to see the information. But see, I can't type anything in that because it's read only. This modal will actually generate the information in there, and we're going to get to that in just a second. Wanted to kind of finish up this. We're going to do an image up or an upload. This next one, instead of doing 4 across, we're going to do 2. So we only have 2 more things to add here. So let's go ahead and add those, and then we'll do our modal. So we have a div here. Give it a class equal to form group. Okay, and we're also going to give this a call medium 6 this time, because we want it to be half this width, and Bootstrap grid system goes by 12. Okay, so we're going to do a label for photo. Okay. Product photo. Okay. Then we do an input class. Actually, we're going to do type equals file. We're going to do name equals photo. do ID equals photo. We're going to do, we don't need a value, but we need a class, form control. Alright, let's take a look at that really quick. Oh, cool. So now we have, you can pick photos here, open, see the name of the photo ends up there. Okay, so next up we're going to do our text box for our description. So that's going to be pretty simple as well. That's just going to be div, close our div. I'm going to give it a class, a form group, and a class of call medium 6. Alright, so in here we're going to do a label for equals description, and then close our label tag. Description. Okay. And then this is going to be text area, and we're going to give it an ID equal to description with an N. We're going to give it name equals description. We'll give it a class equal to form control, and then we're going to give it rows equals to 6 to make it opened up by 6, and then text area. Close that text area. Now in here what we're going to do is a PHP Ternary Operator. Okay, and what we're going to do is if is set $_post. If that set of description, okay, then we're going to print that out right here, $_post description. Okay, and it'd be nice to do sanitize function on this since we have that built. Okay, sizes doesn't need it. List price, we're going to want to go ahead and sanitize that as well. Okay. Price, we'll go ahead and sanitize that one. Okay. What else? We do title. Yep, we already sanitized title. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look now at our form. Unexpected on line 60. Yeah. Okay, what did I do here? That's strange. Wow, I don't know what I was thinking there. See if that fixes it. Alright, so we have a description or text area here, and it was set to 6 rows. Okay. Let's go ahead and put our add button here. So we just need to, right here, we're going to do, we'll do an input, and we're going to do a type equals submit. We're going to do a value equals add product. We'll do a class equals form control, but we're also going to give it a button success to make it green. And let's give it one more class of pull right. See what that looks like. Well, we don't want it to be that big, so let's go ahead and stuff this inside of a div. So let's give it a div with a class of, let's just give it a class of call medium 3, and indent that line. Okay, and we're going to go and do another div, the class of clear fix. Okay, see what that does. Does not work. Alright, instead of this, we're going to do form group pull. Sorry, my kids just came in, so I'm going to have to get off here, and we will finish this up on another day. There we go, now our submit button's over here. Alright, well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. We got our form built. In the next video, we'll go ahead and add our modal here for the quantities, and we'll continue on there. So, sorry about the noise, and you guys have a wonderful day.